its first earnings ahead of its highly anticipated public debut next week, with a key focus on the platform's Bitcoin trading numbers. Kate Rooney now has more. Hey, Kate.
Hey, Tyler, the big line item to watch today in Coinbase's earnings: crypto transaction fees. That's how Coinbase made 96% of its revenue last year. That's according to a recent filing. The company brought in just over $1 billion in 2020, and the majority of that came from Bitcoin and Ethereum trading. Coinbase also says its performance is tightly correlated to Bitcoin prices, but it also listed Bitcoin volatility as one of the biggest risk factors, saying its net revenue is, quote, substantially dependent on the price of crypto assets and volumes of transactions. Price declines, it says, could adversely affect the business. Potential Coinbase investors are also watching institutional trading numbers and services and subscription revenue. There's also a big focus on user numbers and competition. Coinbase last reported 43 million retail traders. But remember, PayPal launched its own crypto offering in the quarter, so we'll see if that has any impact. Bitcoin, meanwhile, has roughly doubled since January, and Ethereum is up about 180% year to date. Those gains lifted the entire cryptocurrency's market cap past $2 trillion for the first time ever this week. Tyler.
So two questions here. Number one is it would appear that this company doesn't have a big moat around it. In other words, it could be subject to a lot of competition. There are other big players who could come in and eat their lunch, number one. Number two, do we infer from what you just said that this company's stock could ultimately be as volatile as cryptocurrency prices have been?
That's exactly right. On your first point, Coinbase really was the first entry point for people to invest in Bitcoin. But now, as you have folks like Square, PayPal, and others getting into the market and offering crypto trading on what otherwise is a pretty straightforward payments company. And you might have at some point the ability to trade Bitcoin on your banking app, for example. So that is definitely a competitive pressure that people have called out. And then in terms of the volatility, the Wall Street analysts that have already initiated Coinbase are expecting this company to be extremely volatile. If you look at Bitcoin, they're sort of expecting the same thing the first few years that Coinbase begins trading as a public company, which we'll see next week in its debut.
All right. Hang on to your hats. Kate, thanks. Courtney.
Yeah, I saw a Bitcoin.com digital advertisement in New York City yesterday. It's not too late. Anyway, up next, the pandemic crushing many brick and mortar retailers. And our next guest says 80,000 more stores could close in the next 5 years. Plus, in the backcourt, we'll be joined by College Basketball Player of the Year, Luka Garza, talking NCAA, the state of sports amid COVID, and more. All this when Power Lunch returns.